Fear Ascended 2 has finally arrived, making its way back into Ark Survival Ascended for the second time now. Also returning is the mighty DodoRex and Dodo Wyvern, spawning across servers during this glorious event. And in this video I'll be showcasing everything you need to know about the event, how to unlock everything legit or with spawn commands. An array of new event creatures and cosmetics have been added to the event this year. We've got a lot to cover, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's begin with showing you how to install and activate the mod. So from the main menu, you'll be wanting to click on the mods list, navigate to the search bar at the top right of the screen, and search for Fear Ascended. Hit the installation button and wait for it to install. Once installed, if playing single player, go to the mod settings, then available mods, click the Fear Ascended mod, and finally click the activate mod option. When clicking your active mods, you can then see that the Fear Ascended mod has been added to the list of your in-game mods. You can then start up your single player game. And secondly, this is how you install the mod when using the Nitrado server. Firstly, be sure to stop your server before making any changes. Navigate to the side menu on the left and click CurseForge Mods. You can either type in the mod ID here, or what I like to do is scroll down here to the search bar, type in Fear Ascended, and then click on the mod to install it to your server. Be sure to save your changes before restarting your server. And finally, once starting up your single player game or server, open up the command console and be sure to perform a dino wipe. With the command cheat space destroy wild dinos to allow for the event creatures to spawn in. You are now ready to enjoy the festivities of Fear Ascended. Firstly, let's cover the event bosses and how they work. Living up to the event's name and the most feared of all, the DodoRex makes its return, where usually you have to travel to the island and the center maps to hunt it down, but it was also spawning on Valguero and Ragnarok for me on my unofficial server. You will need to wait until midnight of every third in-game day. When the DodoRex appears on the map, you will see a text prompt on screen to notify you that the DodoRex is here. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an iconic orange moo with the DodoRex symbol anymore, so you will need to pay attention to the text prompt or the famous Fear Evolved melody we all know so well. I typically play with my music turned off, so I figured I would mention that if you do the same. From this point on, you have until daylight to hunt it down, fight it, and kill it, which is of course easier said than done, as it can pretty much spawn anywhere on the map. But when you do find it, you will need to be ready and have a plan of attack, as it does have a whopping health pool of 666,000 health. Once killed, you will be rewarded with a bunch of rare event Chibis and a nice stack of Dinosaur Bones. The DodoRex is always accompanied with an entourage of zombie dodos that, if you can avoid killing, can actually be claimed for yourself, which I do believe can be kept after the event ends. You cannot tame the DodoRex during the event. However, once the event is active, you could spawn it in on your server or single player games to either force tame it or spawn it in as a wild with these two commands. Moving on to the Dodo Wyvern, you'll have to travel to the Scorched Earth map to hunt this big boy down. Same premise as the DodoRex, it will spawn at midnight of every third in-game day, having a limited time until daylight to find and kill. The Dodo Wyvern is much easier to find, as it more commonly spawns around the Wyvern Trench. However, I have also seen it spawn in the center of the map and also the desert too from time to time. It does have a massive health pool of 1.3 million health or more from what I've been told from other players. Some have even said that they've even seen it spawn with 2 million health, which is pretty crazy. The Dodo Wyvern is also accompanied with its own mates, which comes in the form of zombie wyverns. These work the exact same way as the zombie dodos, where if you can somehow avoid killing them, they will become passive and can be claimed for yourself once the battle is done. You can also potentially keep these after the event. Once slain, similar to the DodoRex, the Dodo Wyvern will also reward us with rare event Chibis, some cosmetics, and a nice stack of Dinosaur Bones. Once again, it cannot be tamed during the event, but here are the spawn codes for the Dodo Wyvern if you do want to spawn in a tamed or wild one to fight it out. If you are looking for a place to call home where you can enjoy Fear Ascended and many other shenanigans, let me introduce you to the brand new TBS server clusters. They have a no-wipe PvP and PvE server cluster, both having boosted rates, with PvE featuring a long list of TBS mods and plugins, giving players a fun and immersive experience. If joining the PvP cluster, you'll be safe from harm with offline raid protection throughout the weekdays. The weekend, however, is where the fun begins for some. Not only that, but they offer custom caves and many other enjoyable features, plus they are giving away a whopping $600 cash prize too. What's not to like? If you are interested in joining and finding out more, their Discord servers are linked in the description of the video and in a pinned comment. Now let's get right back to the video. As always with Ark events, your world will be flooded with an array of dazzling, colourful wild creatures spawning naturally all over the map. So if you're a fan of pretty colours that you could potentially incorporate into your breeding lines, then now is the time to go out there and tame. Here's a cheeky bit of info for you regarding the event runtime and some booster rates for all your servers. servers, which I'm sure all the official players will be salivated at the mouth for. The event will run from the 29th of October to the 12th of November. The robotic mouse is a new creature that was added to the event. They seemingly share spawns with dodos and are quite aggressive and have a decent amount of health for their size. Once killed, you can loot their death cache for Mutagen Ooze, which is a resource required in crafting many items from your smithy. You can also chop them up for the same resources that extinction robotic creatures drop, which is nice. It has quite a quick spoil timer of 30 minutes, and even the Ice Wyvern cannot extend that, which is a shame, but at least it stacks into 100, I guess. Ghost creatures will also return with the event. These variants received big changes this time around. Firstly, they have higher damage and higher damage resistance, so you will most likely need to utilize the new item, the Ecto Lantern. This can be used to weaken the ghost creatures and make them much easier to kill. This can be crafted from a smithy, which we'll get onto in a second. They used to drop their skins in their death cache once killed. However, that is not the case anymore. Once killed, will now drop Ectoplasm in their death caches, which will be needing to craft the skin from the smithy for that creature. All ghost creatures drop their own ectoplasm, so if you want to skin your RG with a ghostly look, you'll be needing to hunt down a ghost RG and so on and so forth. To do this, head on over to your smithy, navigate to the holiday tab, chuck in any of your Fear Ascended resources. This is where you'll find all your Halloween themed skins, cosmetics and craftable items. This is also where you can craft the new weapon, the Ecto Lantern. After crafting your cosmetics and taking them out, they will then go directly into your cosmetics tab when inside your inventory. This can then be donned your creature of choice to give them a taste of that festive spirit and ghostly appearance, ready for Halloween and battle, have you will. Here is a list of ghost creatures and their spawn commands that you'll find spawning throughout the event. All variants can of course be found on their native maps, and I must admit it's really nice to see the devs add in a new selection of ghost creatures this time around. I think my favourites have to be the Otter, Ceratosaurus and the Yankee. They all look absolutely beautiful, but there is a whopping 14 new ghost creature variants being added. Dinosaur Bones is another important resource you'll be needing in crafting Fear Ascended items, and I must say I haven't seen any spooky piles spawning so far this year, but there is no info on them being changed either, so I figured I would mention them here, just in case they did break something and the fix is on its way. This is footage from last year's event, but basically each pile will reward us with a random amount of Dinosaur Bones. These are temporary structures looted for this resource. Luckily, there is another way to gather Dinosaur Bones, which is through hunting down and killing Skeletal and Alpha Skeletal creatures, which can also be found roaming all maps in a similar fashion to ghost creatures, having a small chance to spawn over their vanilla counterparts, as intimidating to look at as they are intimidating to kill, with even the non-alpha variants having very high health pools, so fighting them under equipped will never be a walk in the park, so you do ideally have to have strong weaponry and creatures for the job. Once killed, you can access their death cache, which will reward you with a random amount of Dinosaur Bones and also their bone costume that you can equip to your own creatures of the same species. Lovely jubbly. And here's a list of bone creature variants you can find spawning in the wild. Once you have done enough rummaging around for those spooky piles and have amassed a good amount of Dinosaur Bones, you are ready to begin crafting yourself some cool and creepy Halloween items, which can of course be done from the smithy. Hovering your cursor over the item with the item info turned on will inform you of how many Dinosaur Bones you need to craft certain items. Random Chibis and dinosaur candies can also be crafted here at the smithy. The candy can be force fed to your tamed creatures, which will give them a temporary color change and small movement speed bonus for the duration of 24 hours. colours. Of course, because the effect is temporary, these colours cannot be bred into any babies. So what items and costumes can you craft to spook up your character, creatures and base? Well, here's a small visual montage to sink your teeth into. All spawn commands included, of course.